This video is sponsored by Fulcrum Publishing. Normally I'd wait until after some kind of intro before I announce a sponsorship, but I need to get it out of the way immediately. Fulcrum has been a regular sponsor of my channel for 3 years at this point, starting with the original Forgive Me Father back in 2021. Everything they've sent me has been awesome. I'm in a bit of a difficult position here, because I don't accept sponsor deals unless I enjoy the game, and more importantly, I believe the audience will enjoy the game. And the situation with Forgive Me Father 2 is that it's good, I enjoyed it, I think plenty of other people will like it too. It goes on to have a lot of fun, fast, boomer shooter action with a lot of violence and weapon variety. It's the kind of thing that I like, and I had a smile on my face. But it's also a step back in a few ways. I don't know if saying that is ultimately gonna make Fulcrum not sign off on this video for the sponsorship. If that's the case, I'll be uploading this on my side channel, Residual Mayo, where it will go to die. Hopefully they're open to my criticisms that are combined with the fact that I do think it's a good game. I'm happy to be promoting it. And I think Fulcrum is aware at this point that if you're listening to me for a recommendation, you're looking for very specific kinds of discussion before you make a purchasing decision. And sponsored or not, I can't keep this information from you. The Lovecraftian-inspired FPS Forgive Me Father 2, still not with the comma before the word father, is a continuation of some aspects of the original and a big departure in others. It still has the hand-drawn comic art style, it has some of the same enemies like the zombies that replace their own heads and the toxic dudes with the breakable tanks on their backs, and a whole bunch more enemy variants, 21 actually. It's in a way more of what you liked from the first game. I can recommend it on that level. It looks absolutely gorgeous, the botanical garden in particular was stunning. One of the boss fight levels just blew my mind, it's beautiful. Splattering gore effects are happening all the time, leaving giant bloodstains on the walls. Levels are maze-like without being brain-meltingly complex. From time to time, you'll need to stop and think about where you need to go as you're backtracking through these classic Doom-style maps using different colored keys. There's no map function, and while I occasionally wished there were, I was able to get by without it pretty easily. Level layouts are fairly intuitive, but I must say the opening levels of the original were a lot more memorable. The game just had a vibe to it that made those levels stay in my memory even 3 years later, and they naturally flowed into each other. It gave a sense of progression, whereas in the sequel you're now able to go to a hub area, the Asylum, and choose which levels to go to next. I'm obviously not against that in principle, but I do prefer the way the original handled this. There are 4 zones to go through, and the quality of the last 2 far exceeds the first 2. The levels become more ambitious, and you can really feel the confidence in the level designers. The action is ramped up, and Forgive Me Father 2 starts showing off what it can do well: frantic, fast-paced action. I enjoyed the last 2 zones a lot more than what came before, and it definitely helped my feelings towards the game. Sadly, some lackluster boss fights lead to a bit of a letdown at the end of each world. And even though the game does look great, I tend to prefer the original's more scrappy look, in the way it was drawn and in the way it was animated. It had hit stop. When you shot enemies, they animated like still frames from a comic book. It gave the game a real charm that's been lost in the sequel now that everything is buttery smooth. I don't know why they did this. I loaded up the original after playing the sequel for hours, and I instantly remembered how good it feels to play. Part of its identity has been lost in the removal of hit stop. Maybe they did this because they ramped up the intensity and speed of the action, but the charm of the comic-style animations was one of the coolest things about the original, and I'm sad to see it go here. As for the combat, the shotgun and revolver, your main weapons, are satisfying to use, the revolver granting easy headshots even at a distance, and the shotgun doesn't disappoint, it does what you want it to. The explosive weapons are absolutely crucial to your success, being a high source of damage and crowd control. The obelisk is also incredibly important, so you can snipe high health enemies from across the room. And of course the rifle, which I upgraded to turn into a minigun, excellent for backing away or strafing while you mow down everyone. And I also used the Alien version, which was like fully automatic exploding lasers. Lots of cool weapon variety, and as the game went on, I felt more and more resource pressure so I couldn't just abuse one tactic. Pretty good balance at the end of the day. There's a passive reload system, which I love. Let an empty weapon sit for a while, switch back to it, and it's ready to go. Definitely helps with the combat pacing. And it was necessary since reloading is a feature in this game that was not in the original. The melee option is strong, but it's something I almost never used playing on the hard difficulty because the game was simply too fast, a lot faster than the original, and I don't want to put my guns away just to swing the melee for a bit. But if they'd included a quick melee option, I probably would have integrated it more. You've still got classic red explosive barrels and the ones that come alive, which are far more dangerous this time since they don't die in one shot. And I'm wondering why these electric batteries aren't also interactable hazards. I saw them in several levels and it would have been cool to be able to target them and shock everyone nearby. Forgive Me Father 2 also feels more like a bullet hell game at times, with enemies spamming you, projectiles are much faster, and you don't have any new mobility options to deal with it, even crouch or dash. You're just moving in the standard way you were in the first game, but the enemy pressure has been cranked up. And that would be fine if it weren't for the limitations of your powers. Like the original, we have an upgrade system, but it's been significantly reduced, which I am not a fan of. The original system was far more interesting to engage with, branching paths for your weapons, and a lot more features you could invest in. It's really been simplified, with the rest of your abilities being put into this new active-passive ability system. That's where my main issue with this sequel is. Forgive Me Father 1 had you unlocking 4 different abilities: healing, freezing enemies in place with holy water, invulnerability, and infinite ammo, which could all be individually upgraded. They charged up as you played and were strategically triggered when you needed them. I loved this system so much that when I was doing some early QA work for Wizardom, I suggested they study it for their own ability system. That's how right it felt. It led to great moment-to-moment decision-making and variety to your strategy when you repeated difficult fights multiple times. In Forgive Me Father 2, your 4 different abilities have been consolidated into one. On PC, you'll hit Shift and activate this Madness mode, and in the upgrade menu, you unlock different features that are applied during this ability. Okay, give me a minute, I gotta explain this. As you play, you unlock active abilities: fast reload, fast fire, recharging health by doing damage, and you assign which of these you want to activate when you enter your Madness mode. You also have passive abilities like saving ammo, faster flashlight charge, more valuable health pickups. And with these active and passive abilities, you can only have 3 equipped at any time. So I could have, let's say, 2 of these active abilities that activate when I trigger Madness mode, and 1 passive, which is always applied no matter what. And yeah, fine, cool system I guess. But it's taken the awesome management of 4 different abilities and boiled it down to 1 button. You don't have choices during gameplay anymore. It's made the combat far less dynamic than it was in the original. When you get swarmed in the occasional arena fight, all you're doing is strafing and jumping around and occasionally activating your 1 ability that you can't change unless you go back to the asylum and repeat the entire level. I don't like this change at all. The problem this leads to is that the levels start getting longer and longer, and since you're unable to switch abilities, you're stuck with what you have the whole time. There's a level near the end of the game where you have to go through like 10 gauntlets, and you're gonna have to do them all with the same abilities. If you want to change, you have to do the level all over again from going back to the asylum. Which I accidentally did because the Return to Asylum button is right there next to the Reload Checkpoint button, and several times when I was repeating a fight multiple times, I accidentally clicked Return to Asylum and lost all my progress. I hope they put in a confirmation prompt here. I've never been so mad. No! No, 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 no! You also unlock so many passive and active abilities, but you can only ever equip 3. Feels like there should be some kind of expansion mechanic, because eventually I just got comfortable with my combination of abilities and I stopped experimenting. I just don't see how this is an improvement over the original's mechanic of balancing 4 separate abilities. You could have had the same thing going here, just added the option to switch out your abilities for new ones. That would have been great. To be constructive for a moment, I'm going to recommend that they place sporadic points around the map where you can reset the abilities for the Dark Tome, and that they add some kind of expansion system to allow us to use more of them. I don't know why they would simplify their core system like this, unless they were listening to the wrong kind of feedback, which I think maybe they are, because they also changed the save system. It used to be checkpoint based, which meant you actually had to be mindful of your actions so you don't die, which leads to better decision making. Now they've made it to where you can save at any moment, which lets you save scum the entire level. And there's checkpoints on top. Why are there both? There should just be checkpoints. It was so cool to hear that old man yell, "Hey!" because you knew you could finally save your progress. It was exciting. Now he just waits for you at the end of the level you were just able to pass by saving every 30 seconds. There's no way they're going to clear this for sponsorship. If they do, I salute them. Maybe they view the publicity as good no matter what, because again, the sequel is enjoyable. It's just a more basic and less charming experience. If you're looking for running around really pretty environments, a good deal of level variety, well-designed maps, fast challenging run and gun action, and lots of gore, you could do far worse. It's cool, I don't think anyone will be unhappy with their purchase of it. There's fun to be had, but I prefer the original in literally every way. Forgive me, Fulcrum. I appreciate that you guys respect my honest feelings, and I look forward to the next title.